I went to Waverly Hills Sanatorium thinking it would be just another abandoned building. The stories were supposed to be exaggerated, just rumors. But the moment I stepped inside, everything felt wrong. The hallways were freezing cold, even though it was a warm summer night. Every door I passed had deep scratch marks on the inside, like something was trying to get out. And when I reached the entrance of the death tunnel, I heard someone whisper my name, not once, but 3 times. I turned my flashlight and saw a shadow standing upside down on the ceiling. It didn't move. But when I blinked, it was right behind me. I've worked as a freelance videographer for years, filming abandoned factories, old houses, and historical buildings. I've seen collapsing floors, broken ceilings, rats, mold. Nothing scared me anymore. Or so I thought. 2 months ago, I was hired to shoot a short documentary inside Waverly Hills Sanatorium. The plan was simple: film hallways, empty patient rooms, and the infamous death tunnel entrance. Nothing fancy, just B-roll for a creepy abandoned hospital piece. I wasn't there to ghost hunt. I don't believe in ghosts. I just wanted the paycheck. But Waverly Hills has a presence that doesn't show up on camera. The sun was setting as I stepped inside. Outside, the air was warm, but the moment I crossed the threshold, my breath hitched. The temperature dropped sharply, my hands went numb, and the long hallway ahead felt like it was breathing, slow, heavy, alive. My flashlight cut a thin line through the darkness, but even that couldn't hold back the shadows. The peeling paint on the walls looked almost like veins, and the floorboards creaked under my feet with a groan that felt almost sentient. As I moved deeper, I noticed small things, metal beds in the corners of some rooms shifting slightly, as if something had just moved off of them. I tried to rationalize it, maybe wind. Maybe old building settling. But the air was completely still. By the third room, I started seeing scratch marks on the inner side of the doors. Deep, angry gouges, like someone, or something, had clawed at them from the inside. My stomach knotted, but I told myself it was probably from decades of use. I tried to focus on the filming. I adjusted my camera, checked my angles, but an uneasy feeling settled over me. This place wasn't just abandoned. It was waiting. I reached room 502. The one everyone warns visitors about. Room 502 was infamous. Decades ago, a nurse allegedly hung herself there. I wasn't thinking about that when I pushed the door open, but the moment I stepped inside, I understood why the stories persisted. The room was darker than the others. My flashlight barely penetrated the gloom, and the faint buzzing of my camera's electronics filled the heavy silence. Then I heard it. A whisper. Clear, soft, unmistakable. Don't stay here. It wasn't an echo. It wasn't outside noise. It was right there, inside my head, almost like it brushed against my eardrum. My body froze. I couldn't breathe for a moment. I swung my flashlight around. Nothing. The room was empty, except for the faint shadow that seemed to linger in the corner, just out of reach. I tried to convince myself it was nerves. Old buildings make noises. Shadows play tricks. But when I glanced at my camera's live screen, a figure flickered, just for a frame. A woman, standing behind the door. Her long hair covered her face. Still. Silent. Watching. I blinked. Gone. I swallowed hard, telling myself to just finish filming and leave. But something about that room made my heart pound in a way I hadn't felt in years. I exited room 502 quickly, trying to steady my breathing. I told myself it was done. Just another creepy old room. But as I walked the hallway, the scratching marks on the doors seemed sharper, almost fresh, and the air grew colder with every step. Then I noticed it. Footsteps. Not mine. Slow, deliberate. Coming closer. I turned quickly, shining my flashlight. Nothing. And then, from somewhere deep inside the hallway, a soft whisper again, this time my name. You shouldn't be here. I hurried to the death tunnel entrance. The real horror was about to begin. The death tunnel. Just saying the words out loud made my stomach twist. I had no intention of going inside, at least not far. I just wanted to film the entrance, the notorious stairwell where bodies were secretly transported out decades ago. The moment I approached, the temperature dropped again. My breath puffed out in white clouds despite the summer heat outside. My flashlight flickered. The walls seemed to close in. I turned my camera on and pointed it into the darkness of the tunnel. Something moved. A small, almost imperceptible motion, like a shadow detaching from the wall, but it wasn't human. My heart raced. I tried to rationalize. Maybe it was a rat, or dust catching the light. But the movement was deliberate, intelligent, and heading toward me. Then I heard it, bare feet running. Fast. Coming straight up the tunnel. No echo, no bounce, just a pounding rhythm in perfect sync with my own heartbeat. I stepped back, fumbling with my flashlight. The sound stopped. Nothing was visible. Yet the pressure in the air shifted, like someone had brushed past me without making contact. "You're not allowed to leave." I bolted down the hallway, trying to find my way back to the entrance. But the building betrayed me. Hallways I had just walked through now twisted unnaturally. Rooms that should have been empty had shadows lingering in the corners. My flashlight's beam cut through the blackness, but it revealed nothing human, nothing alive, just darkness that felt alive. Panic settled in. I realized I wasn't navigating the building was navigating me. The tunnel's watching presence. Eventually, I stumbled into a small break room. My hands shook so violently I could barely hold the camera. I needed to look at the footage to make sense of what I had just experienced. I checked the last frame of the death tunnel footage. My stomach turned. A figure, tall, gray-skinned, eyes completely white, stood at the tunnel entrance. But the worst part? It wasn't facing the tunnel. It was facing me. I hadn't seen it with my eyes. Only the camera captured it. And then, the impossible happened. Its head twisted, 180 degrees, slowly turning toward the camera lens. I dropped the camera and ran. No more filming. No more curiosity. I just ran. The exit sign finally appeared, dim red glow slicing through the darkness. I sprinted toward it, lungs burning. The cold, oppressive air of Waverly Hills seemed to push me forward. I burst outside, into the warm night. My heart pounded. I gasped for air. I thought I had escaped. But I hadn't realized it yet. Waverly Hills doesn't let go that easily. I thought I had left Waverly Hills behind. I drove home in silence, hands gripping the wheel so tightly my knuckles were white. The warm night outside felt normal, almost comforting. But as soon as I stepped inside my apartment, the sense of relief vanished. I set the camera on the table, my trembling hands barely able to turn it on. The screen lit up, and my stomach dropped. There was a new file. I hadn't recorded it. The timestamp was from that very night, but I hadn't pressed record. The file was called patient_117.mov. I clicked it. 8 seconds of black. Then, slowly, the death tunnel appeared. The same angle where I had been filming. But this time, the camera moved on its own. Slowly, steadily, deeper into the tunnel. I hadn't moved it. I hadn't touched it. And then I saw him. The gray-skinned figure. Standing in the shadows. Eyes completely white. Not moving, just waiting, until the camera shifted slightly, showing the tunnel twisting impossibly, like it had become larger, alive. Then, in the final 2 seconds, the camera angle changed abruptly. It showed my house. My driveway. My front door. And there he was. Standing on my lawn. Silent. Watching. Waiting. My hands froze over the keyboard. My apartment felt suffocating. The shadows seemed thicker, heavier. Every instinct screamed at me to leave, to run, to destroy the footage, but I couldn't. Something was holding me there, forcing me to watch. That night, every sound in my apartment seemed amplified. The creak of the floorboards, the hum of the refrigerator, each became a whisper, a potential presence. I tried to convince myself I was imagining it. That it was stress. That it was fear. But I knew, deep down, that Waverly Hills had followed me home. I couldn't sleep. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw the tunnel stretching endlessly, and those white eyes staring at me from the darkness. I thought leaving Waverly Hills would end it. I was wrong. The next morning, I sat at my laptop to transfer the footage from the camera. That's when I noticed something impossible. The folder names had changed. Files I hadn't renamed now had titles like, "I told you not to stay here." I froze. My fingers hovered over the keyboard. I didn't touch anything. The words were there when I opened the folder. I clicked on the footage. Everything looked normal until I saw one new file that I never recorded. Patient_117.mov again. I hesitated, then played it. The tunnel appeared on screen, moving as if the camera was being carried deeper inside by an invisible hand. Every detail was identical to that night, but the movement was unnatural. Too fluid, too purposeful. And then, the impossible happened. The footage ended at my driveway. My house. My front door. And he was standing there. The gray-skinned man with the white eyes. Silent. Watching. Waiting. I couldn't breathe. I slammed the laptop shut. I tried to convince myself it was a glitch, some corrupted file. But that night, the footsteps began. Bare feet on the hardwood floor. Slow. Dragging. Coming closer. I locked my bedroom door, pressing my back against it. Heart racing. Breath shallow. The footsteps stopped just outside. Then a single knock. Soft, deliberate. I didn't open it. The lights flickered violently. The air in the room turned freezing cold. A shadow stretched across my wall and floor, impossibly long, creeping toward me. I realized, in that moment, that leaving Waverly Hills hadn't freed me. I had brought it home. And in my apartment that night, I understood the truth. The death tunnel had followed me. It wasn't just a building. It wasn't just a place. It was alive. And now, it was inside my home. That night, I couldn't sleep. I tried to destroy the camera, thinking that would end it, but as soon as I touched it, the device powered on by itself. The screen glowed faintly, and words slowly appeared. "You took me home." My stomach dropped. The air in my apartment turned icy. Shadows stretched across the walls, unnaturally long, moving without a source. Then I heard it. Footsteps. Bare, slow, dragging footsteps in the hallway outside my bedroom. They weren't normal, too deliberate, too heavy for anyone alive. I pressed my back harder against the door. My breathing was shallow. The knock came next. Soft. Single. Perfectly timed. I didn't open it. I couldn't. The lights flickered violently. 1 second my bedroom was dim, the next bathed in pale, unnatural glow. A shadow slid across the floor, stretching impossibly. Its shape was tall, thin, distorted, moved with intent, creeping toward me. I wanted to scream, but my voice caught in my throat. My eyes darted to the camera, still glowing on the floor. The screen showed the figure standing in the corner. Its head tilted at an impossible angle. Long arms stretched unnaturally, limbs bending like paper. Its white, empty eyes locked on me. I realized then. I had never left Waverly Hills. The death tunnel wasn't just in Kentucky. It was here, in my home, in my life. It had followed me. The shadow moved closer. My heart raced, my body frozen. I couldn't look away, couldn't move. Then, silence. But the cold remained. The oppressive weight of the place lingered. The camera screen went black, and I knew. I knew the figure would wait. Always. watching, patient. And as I lay in darkness that night, I understood the cruel truth of Waverly Hills. You can leave the building. You can survive the death tunnel. But the death tunnel will never leave you.